Plaintiff Philip Green says after he rented an apartment with the defendant, she started dating someone who had a girlfriend. And she did not like it when Philip criticized the situation. Philip suing his former roommate for rent and damages. Defendant Shantae Ross says while living with Philip, he smoked marijuana constantly, and then she discovered he was growing marijuana plants in their apartment. She's countersuing for moving expenses.
Start with you.
We moved in together summer of 2010. I knew her through school, so we have mutual friends on campus. That's
How
how I
long
knew her.
had you known her?
About 2 years before we moved in together.
Go ahead.
So we moved in together, and pretty much when we first moved in, the biggest problems we had is just like, she's really overly motherly. So people come over, she want to question everybody. She want to look everybody up on Facebook, and she want to know everything about everybody. And the thing about her is she got two personalities. So for her is during the day is Black Panther. I'm uplifting Black people as a woman. And then at night, it's just like the freaks come out at night, Your Honor. That's how it is. During the day, she'll lecture you about what you're doing as a Black person that's not right. And then at night, she do her own thing. She'll never bring a dude over during the day. So from 2, they can come over. 6, they got to be gone.
That's my business.
Yeah, that's her business, and that's how we lived it. So up until November, that was her business. Never had a problem with it. In November of 2010, she meets a friend at a Black Studies banquet. She comes home, she's infatuated. Oh, he's the best thing, and he's this, he's that.
What school do
he's
you
great.
all attend?
San Diego State University. So she's so excited because he's a Black Studies major. They got everything in common, but he has a girlfriend that he lives with. So they begin to, so pretty much he sold her a dream. After that, she's coming home every day. Oh, he walked me to class. He sat with me through my whole lecture. He opened every door for me as I walked through the hall. And I'm sitting there and I'm not saying nothing about it, but I'm telling her like, okay, at the end of the day, you're going to be the one that's going to get hurt. And she's telling everybody about him, and everybody's telling her the same thing. Like, why are you doing that? You messing with a guy who got a girlfriend, like,
That's
and,
not
and
true
everything
either.
like that.
Okay.
So
Let me allow her to give some background first. She said you are a Black activist and you're Black power, and you study the problems. And is that true?
Yes, that is. I'm an
All
Africana
right.
Studies
So
major.
do you just study it, or we know what the
that's what I'm
problems
getting
are?
my-
What do you do to
My degree is going to be in
No,
Africana
no, I'm
Studies.
talking about degree.
Oh.
So what do you do to help resolve those problems that you're studying? That's more important, is to help resolve them. We know that Black men in prison at a higher rate than white men. We know that the income gap. We know all of that. Now, what are you doing? Are you marching? Are you protesting economic injustice? Are you lobbying Congress, going to Congress saying we need to change? Or are you just an armchair revolutionary?
No.
Kind of like preparing to sell books and go on the lecture circuit.
No, I'm actually very involved in my community. I've volunteered at different high schools in my community, just teaching them things about Black studies. One of my big things is on educating our youth. I feel like in order to progress as a community, we need to educate ourselves. And a lot of people aren't being educated properly in the lower income community. So that's one of my big things that I do, go to different schools and I do talk about.
Okay,
Also,
I know. I know about talking about it. We got to do more. We got to be about it. We have to advocate. We have to pressure. You have to put pressure on the right people. That's your state legislators. You have to pressure them. Joining an organization that does that. Unions protest. Teachers unions protest. You have community groups that protest to get things done. So I don't want you to fall into that academic person, Don't be an armchair revolutionary. Get out there, all right?
I plan to. I do soon plan to.
There you go. You can do it now. College students of the 60s are the ones that played perhaps the most significant role in the civil rights movement. All right. So I'm glad to hear, however, that you are at least interested in the subject. And you and he became roommates after knowing each other for 2 years, as he said?
It was a little less than that, probably about a year.
Right. So what has it been like?
You find out who someone is when you live with them, and he also has just a totally different persona than when I originally knew of him. When he first moved into the apartment, one thing that I did notice about him, he smoked weed from morning till night.
Your Honor.
He complains that I was a black activist or whatever, but he smoked weed and drank alcohol from sunup to sundown. He couldn't read a book without getting high first.
It was
that was,
Let her finish.
my bad.
that was one of the main issues that I did have with him, was because he would never smoke weed in his room. And when he did smoke weed in his room, it was because I'd got on him about it just a few times. Like he said, I am motherly. I can take that trait.
Did you know he smoked weed during
At
those
that
2
time,
years that
I
you
knew
knew?
that because we're college students, so I knew that, you party and things like that. I thought he drank a lot. I used to always laugh at him and tell him, like, you're always under the influence, but I thought that was alcohol. I didn't know that it was marijuana.
You didn't expect him to smoke weed in the apartment?
No. And then when I noticed that he did smoke weed in the apartment, I asked him if he can smoke weed in his room, because I do have allergies and asthma, and it affects it a lot.
Did he?
No, he just blatantly ignored me. Anytime I would ask him about it, he would just get an attitude. He's one of these people, he has a very bad temper. When you mention something to him, it's just over the top temper. There was a few instances he put my safety at risk as well.
How?
In about December, around November, December, I come home one day and I see these plants just laying around my house. And I'm thinking like he's decorating or something. I end up finding out they're weed plants. That's how far his addiction went. He never, and when I told him about it, I
weed
said,
inside the apartment.
yes, when I told him about it, I said, not only are you putting yourself at risk, you're putting me at risk as well. Because if the police came in here, they're not going to ask whose is it. They're going to take everybody to jail. He failed to understand that.
Okay.
He eventually did take them out of the house, I guess because they wouldn't grow or something like that. He found out that they weren't going to grow. So that's when he took it out the house. It wasn't because I asked him to. Around November, December, I come home one day and I see these plants just laying around my house. And I'm thinking like he's decorating or something. I end up finding out they're weed plants. That's how far his addiction went. He never, and when I told him about it, I
weed
said,
inside the apartment.
yes, he eventually did take them out of the house, I guess because they wouldn't grow or something like that. He found out that they weren't going to grow. So that's when he took it out the house. It wasn't because I asked him to.
Plaintiff Philip Green is suing his former roommate, who claims Philip was growing marijuana plants in their apartment without her knowledge.
Let me allow him to respond, sir.
First of all, Your Honor, in the state of California, marijuana is legal, and I'm a certified medical patient, first of all. So I'm not out buying stuff on the street corner from anybody.
Did she know that when you moved in?
She knew that I smoked. I didn't feel the need to go into detail about me having a medical card and everything.
You should. Anytime that you are,
Yes.
anytime you are committing what might otherwise be an illegal act, you need to go into the fact that it's legal when you move in with a person. As you just said, you didn't go into that fact.
But she either engaged in it with me because she also smoked as well. She smoked after we moved in. So I don't get why she's bringing that up, because she smoked with me before.
Ma'am?
It's not just me smoking. She
Have
smoked
you ever
with
smoked
me.
marijuana with him?
Have I ever smoked marijuana?
Yes.
I've smoked marijuana before in my life.
All right.
So she smoked with me before.
Let's move on, sir.
Okay, so
you're suing her, but how does she owe you for rent and
Okay,
damages?
so November, so like you said, November, December, she meets the guy, we start having issues, she's getting emotional. So as November, December, the months progress, things are getting worse.
She moved out when, sir?
She moved out at the end of February
And
28th.
had you all agreed that she would move out without cost?
No, the agreement was if she wanted to leave, she needed to find someone to fill her room and pay her half of the rent for until the end of the lease. No, she did not.
What months are you suing for?
I'm suing for March through August.
All right, and her share of the rent was how much?
$582.50.
Ma'am, what do you have to say about this?
One of the other issues that I did have with Philip, he continuously had people coming in and out of the apartment.
Ma'am, let's move on. What you're arguing is constructive eviction, meaning that the conditions were so bad that you could no longer take them.
Yes.
You started out telling me that the weed was so bad because of your asthma. You have a health problem so bad that you can't even be around marijuana. Now I hear and you admit that you've smoked marijuana yourself. I don't trust what you're telling me about the conditions of the apartment. I won't trust it. Because you just gave me the defense that the reason I moved, a big reason, was because he was smoking weed. And I'll die if I get around some weed. And here you smoking weed yourself. Now, is there any other defense other than the conditions that he forced you to live in?
His cousin that he allowed to live at the apartment came into my room one night when I just got out the shower. I was completely naked and came into my room and he sat on my bed. Philip wouldn't know because he was passed out on the couch.
Did he sexually assault you?
No, but I was.
Did you tell him him to leave?
I did.
And
Plenty
what
of times.
happened?
And he sat there on the couch and he
He
bed.
didn't leave?
No, he wouldn't leave.
So did you file a complaint against him?
Because it was like 11 o'clock at night, the next day I went to the landlord and I told her about all of this, and she gave me permission to, she told me to write out a statement saying everything that had been occurring because I'd gone to her numerous times since November. She told me to write out a statement and that she would sign it, allowing me to vacate the apartment.
Sir, she said she's giving me a document where the landlord allowed her to get out of the lease, and therefore she doesn't owe you anything.
So the same document that she just handed you, I have in front of me. In the document, it clearly says she informed me that I should find a new roommate to take over my half of the lease in order to save money. That's what it says in the third paragraph of the document she just handed you.
You have to continue reading.
Then in the end of the document.
Sir, let me read what I see as the most significant. And that is, it says, she informed me to put everything in writing. And once I moved, Philip Green, you, would be responsible for the rent because he now has 2 roommates to take over the lease. This is a confirmation of the terms of this letter. So let's get to the damages you're suing her for.
The damages, she lived in the apartment 2-3 years before I did. Her family lived in that apartment long before I did. So when I moved, the carpets and everything, the stove and all that was already dirty from previously, like the sides of it and everything. Like they expect all that to be cleaned by me.
When you signed the lease, the landlord had not viewed it. Did that happen?
No.
Oh, okay.
I was never shown the apartment beforehand. And the way
don't sign the lease in the future.
No, well,
hold on, college man.
Yes.
In the future, do not sign a lease without seeing the property which you are leasing.
Yes,
all right.
sir.
So you never looked at it.
Okay.
And when you moved in, did you make note of it? Did you mention it to her?
We were both living there. So when we moved in, it wasn't a problem. It wasn't a problem when we moved in.
All right. So it only became a problem when she left?
Because when she left, she didn't clean anything. She didn't do anything.
Were you charged for the damages?
Yes, I've been charged.
You have the evidence?
I'm waiting for that to come in.
Okay,
I just
when you get it, bring it back.
But she either engaged in it with me because she also smoked as well. She smoked after we moved in. So I don't get why she's bringing that up because she smoked with me before.
You just gave me the defense that the reason I moved, a big reason, was because he was smoking weed. And I'll die if I get around some weed. And here you smoking weed yourself.
Plaintiff Philip Green is suing his former roommate, who claims Philip was growing marijuana plants in their apartment without her knowledge.
Your counterclaim for $1,562 for moving expenses. How does he owe you?
I felt like if I wasn't put in the situation where I felt like I was unsafe, especially with his cousin coming into my room that way, I wouldn't have had to move. I did look for Philip a roommate and everything like that, but because of the forced circumstances with his cousin coming into my room, etc., I felt like I had to move immediately.
Right. And you did?
Yes.
So how does he owe you? For the truck or what?
Yeah, $62 is for the U-Haul, and then the $1,500 was for the deposit of the new apartment and also the first month's rent.
So you would have still had to pay rent had you stayed, though.
Yes.
So you had to pay rent somewhere. How can you sue him for your new rent when you had to pay it somewhere? You can't sue him for the new place that you stayed in when you had to pay rent if you stayed there. So no, I'm not granting you that. And did you leave with damage to the property that you caused, to your knowledge?
No, and I also have photos of the apartment, how I left it.
All right. And I suggest to you, since he doesn't have receipts or any other evidence that you have caused damage, I suggest that you not show me any photos.
Okay.
He has to prove it. So I'm going to dismiss your claim, sir. The counterclaim for the moving expenses, $62. Quite frankly, I'm not going to conclude he did anything. I'm going to conclude you got out of the lease because you wanted to get out of the lease. So he didn't force you to move. You went to the landlord and said, landlord, let me out. And the landlord said, okay. So nobody gets anything today. You were let out like you wanted. Have a good day. Case is dismissed.
You cool, it wasn't no hard feelings about this. It's just about the money, so.
My business is my business. I didn't put his business out there, but it was a low blow to put mine out there, but it's okay. If that's how he saw it, that's how he saw it. That's his opinion.